Welcome in 5 minutes with Sean, maybe 10. Today's episode, welcome back to the car business, people. That is all that I have been hearing for the last couple of weeks. And so I really wanted to talk about kind of my perception of what that means to people. And I've also been talking with a lot of consumers. So I have a feel for what that means to them. And I think you might be surprised as to what I am hearing. First of all, from the dealer perspective, getting back in the car business means salespeople have gotten maybe a touch lazy, managers the same potentially as well. Everybody sort of fell into this lull of, yes, you don't want this, then have a nice day. When that's never been our business. Vehicles were never commodities until like appreciable commodities until COVID, right? So that drove the price up. People were turning and flipping cars like houses for profit. If we thought that was going to last, maybe we weren't really paying attention. Maybe we were a little too short sighted in the discussion, potentially, because I've always thought that this day would come. And the day comes where there's inventory back on lots. You got lots stacking up. You got lots that people say now, we don't even have room for the cars you got coming in because they've expanded model lines, they've added EVs, or initial infrastructure wasn't enough. Now we've grown past that point, right? And everybody's kind of scrambling. I think that leasing has finally gotten back its just due of discussion. I think it's an important part of the discussion, because it is automatically the way to get things recycled and moving. And I was just having this discussion with a client earlier today that, look, at the end of the day, used cars are still scarce and difficult to get, even for guys who are in the used car business and have been, because what I believe happened was there wasn't enough new cars sold in that 2-year window to get people to trade in. So when that happens, and then the price goes up, right? So now the price is up here. There wasn't enough inventory here. So we weren't even selling enough units because there wasn't enough cars on ground. Then the day supply gets up, but the price is up here. But the people are still kind of here income-wise, right? And so they're trying to figure out, like, well, how do I bridge the gap? Well, I can do that by getting into used. Now, used pricing wasn't much different than new pricing for a point. Now, that's kind of changed a little bit with manufacturers changing pricing, etc. But they're getting back to rebates, which, come on, what doesn't feel more car business than rebates, right? Incentives. Although I will say most are still trying to lean on 0 and 0.9. It's for those of you who remember coming out of 9/11 selling cars, it was the same thing. It was before the rebate idea choked on. It was, hey, let's do a 0% for 72 months. Let's rock people's mind. And then that did something. And then they were like, well, what if we do 0+, right? And that's when you know we've made it places, people. That's when you know it's officially 2019 again, because then it's on, right? Everybody's in the same place. Now, this is another interesting thing, my friends, that you need to take consideration of. I'm fortunate to have a lot of great clients across the United States that have absolutely dominated their market for one reason or another. But there's always been this discussion of the people that they have on their radar, who's coming up, right? Well, now all of a sudden the people on the radar are neck and neck, sometimes slightly ahead of the traditional powerhouse brand in a market. And we ask ourselves, how does it happen? Likely it's because someone decided to make an adjustment first, or just got better at their jobs, which, people, this can happen. This can happen. Look at the Kansas City Royals in baseball. In the playoffs last year, they lost 100 games. I think that's right. Last 2 years, lost 100 games. Anything can happen. Give it a year, change things up. People can make adjustments. But how close do you know your competition? Now that we're back in the car business, are we paying attention to that? Because I look at year-over-year numbers, and I think everyone should do themselves a service and stop looking at year-over-year numbers, because they're just not – it's not fun. It's not fun to see where you were then and see where the business has adjusted, because it has. Your best bet for information about where you're headed is definitely a month-over-month situation. Like, not even close, probably, because at the end of the day, it's that rapid. It's that fast where the changes occur. And people right now, again, inventory is still the question mark, but in a different way, right? And now, from the consumer's perspective, okay, I help people buy cars all the time. It's a hobby of mine. It's something I've been doing for a long time. I love it. When it happens, when we get into it, I'm finding that consumers are loving negotiations again, right? Who was that dumb manufacturer that said they were going to go direct to consumer and that was the future of the car? What was that billion-dollar losing company? What was their name again? I forget. That doesn't matter. They've probably been around for a long time. It's not a thing, okay? People are wanting to deal less and less with big corporations, period. I hear it every day. I talk to people all the time about it. They're wanting to stay local, stay with people they know, stay with people they trust. But even those people they trust, they want to negotiate with. So what? That's what the car business is. That's what a car is. Houses, my friends, are even feeling a little bit of the negotiation bug. Think about that from the last 4 years. Consider. But remember, when it comes to financial cycles in this country, we didn't go back into that recession dip that typically happens in a 10, 12-year cycle. We avoided it. We were COVID inflated. Well, it seems at some level, I know, big argument here as opposed to like what's really going on in the world, but like it has come down. The grocery store thing, really fast side point, that's just people being greedy on your ass. Like you can call it inflation, you can blame a government entity. I don't really give a shit. End of the day, that's people being greedy on your ass, taking advantage of you. So go to your local farmers markets. That's where I go, and I spend like $22 every Saturday morning. So I don't really want to hear about how greed drove up the cost of things because manufacturers, car dealers are responsible just the same fucking way. Just the same way. So don't absolve yourself because you look other places or want to complain about other people in the market. Because now, being back in the car business means negative equity. Negative equity, people. Who's got it? Who wants it? Who needs more of it? Not us right now, dealers. I know you're seeing it. I see the reasons in CRM why people don't make car deals. I see it. I know what it says. It's no good, but it's happening all the time. Why is it happening? Because we took advantage of the situation and it came back to bite us much sooner than I think anyone thought it would. And it's going to be here. And, seeing the $20,000 car, that used to be the $15,000 car, that used to be the $10,000 car. So again, the appreciation of money has happened. Inflation does happen in these times. I'm not sitting here saying it hasn't. I just think it's a little bit over fear-mongered, frankly. But at the end of the day, as car dealers, we still make it happen. You still find ways. You still fill your service drive. You get those new cars. You sell those new cars. You try to, increase turn. But look at what's happened to turn, right? Like it was a number that people were being incentivized on. Do I think that's still happening? Frankly, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think it should anymore, but I mean, turns are going to get back to not being, 30 days. You're going to go back to that. I mean, you're going to have a car with a birthday by 2025. You know what I mean? It's the car business. Shit happens. The OEM makes cars people don't want. They don't put enough incentive on the hood. You want to know what else is a big thing there? Education. EV education. EV education is having to come from tier 3, and that is jacked up. That's jacked up because it wasn't tier 3's idea to get into the EV business all hot and heavy, as most manufacturers have. So everyone's sort of to blame, but we know how to deal with this. We've been dealing with this many, many times before. This is just a different animal in a different way, but the same problem. Got to sell cars. How are we going to do it? So for the tier 3 dealers educating consumers on EVs, keep up with it. Social media, great place to do it. Great place to do it. We heard all about it at Being Social a couple weeks ago. It is a thing. It is a great way to educate. It's a great way to engage. And that's what you have to do right now. You have to do the job of the tier 1 because they're just trying to figure out how to wholesale more cars down your throat without putting any rebates or incentives on them. That's the lesson they learned out of COVID. So good luck to them, I suppose, but that means good luck to us. Ultimately, as an industry, I know we will overcome because we do. And I think that it starts with getting back to, as my woman Wendy Reeves says, back to the basics, doing what we know how to do, treating people with respect, qualifying them. That's what I want to talk about. That's what I want to see more of. So go out, people, make it happen. And we'll see you again next week on the show. Have yourselves a wonderful week.